authors Mindy Audlin and Stacy Collins.
Shall we go there? Yes, let's talk about money. I am Mindy Audlin.
And I'm Stacy Collins.
Hi, Stacy. And in this episode of The Leading Edge, our focus is on how to create healthy financial flow as part of a mission-centric organizational strategy. We're going to address your top questions about building a money mindset in a mission-driven organization. Plus, there's more. We are also joined today by Reverend Karen Tudor, Senior Associate Minister of Unity of Houston. Welcome, Karen. Great to have you with us.
Oh, hey, wonderful to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm very excited about this subject, actually.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great conversation. We're so glad that you are here. So are you ready? It is time to buckle up because we are going there. So let's do this. Now, we always kick things off with a check-in. And check-in, we usually just, what have you been thinking about since our last episode? Our last episode, we talked about creating healthy cultures and the 5 C's of communion, connection, compassion, community, and challenge. So, Stacy, you want to check in? What's been showing up for you since we last got together?
I'm so glad you asked, Mindy. Actually, it's funny. This morning, right before, just about an hour ago, I had a conversation with one of my spirit group hosts she's just amazing. And we weren't even necessarily talking about the 5 C's, but I was asking her about her group, and they all came up organically in the conversation. The connections that she has built in that group have really just kind of, they've trickled out, they've expanded out. I know people can't see what I'm doing with my hands, but I'm I'm going out, I'm reaching out. And she talks about how some of the people in her group, she knows they're new to Unity, and that they're able to have the safe space to ask those questions. That's what she was really talking about, the importance. What she wants everyone to know is how much people need a safe space just to be seen, be accepted, and be able to just have people to be on the spiritual walk with. So it was great to hear those 5 C's in an organic conversation.
I love that. I love that it's organic, but it's not by accident. And so what that says to me is a lot of times I think we see structure and we're like, structure's bad and organic is good. And so we just need to let go and let things fall where they may. But what I love about what we're doing here is we're actually bringing together the best of both. We're creating a structure. We're creating a messaging that is consistent. And so it flows into the culture and gets expressed in lots of beautiful and unique ways. So what I've been thinking about is we didn't really go into a lot of detail about, how do we infuse the culture with these things? How do we infuse prayer consciousness into every group? Because we do. We start every group with prayer meditation. How do we build connection? Because not only do we usually have food and drinks, even on Zoom, you can have food and drinks.
That's right.
But we also do connection events. We do social outings. It's intentional. The things that we're doing are planned out in order to support those 5 cultural habits. So if you missed the episode, I hope you have to go back and listen to it because it really builds a foundation for everything that we're talking about in this Leading Edge series. Karen, I know you have been familiar with these 5 disciplines of building a healthy culture. Anything you want to share about how it has impacted your life or your ministry?
Well, from, 10,000 feet up, I'm not involved directly with the hosts at this juncture or with the individual groups, but I would say that it's very obvious to me that the enthusiasm, the bonding, the service orientation of the service of the spirit groups is palpable and exciting and wonderful, helps to the vision that we're trying to unfold, or the jobs that need to get done, or things that need some extra hands. The spirit groups are there en masse, to just kind of step in and take care of that, or something that they would like to be able to give to the community falls right into our hands and into that wouldn't have happened if the spirit group wasn't already organized. I mean, this is really goes back in the traditional sense of Bible study groups, right? The adult Sunday schools of the past or whatever. They were organizing entities just like this, like mini churches within a church. And so the spirit groups really operates that way and brings a culture to the larger culture. It inspires people to want to be a part of that, I think. And this, if nothing else, feel the benefit of the joy and the expression and the activity of the group. So
Yeah.
it's palpable. It's felt.
I love it. I love it. And I love the idea that these five basic ideas, these elements of culture, that they can live within each of us as individuals. They can live within a small group. They can live within your organization, your entire ministry. And what we're talking about really is laying a foundation of a healthy culture, because a healthy culture is going to grow. When something's healthy, it will grow and expand. So that sets the stage really well, I think, for the topic of today, which I think is going to be a really juicy topic. This is an area where sometimes I think we are a little hesitant to talk about the money issues. And I think for a lot of leaders, spiritual leaders, it's a challenging topic to address. There's a lot of struggle and a lot of, I've tried everything. What do I do? So this is where we're going today. We're talking about the money mindset of a mission-driven ministry. So what it means, how do you do that? How does that relate to the different things that you're doing, including your small groups? So Stacy, I'm going to check in with you first. So why is this important, or how is it different? What's your experience around money mindset when it comes to mission-driven ministry?
Yeah, well, Mindy, when I think about what really gets me in that giving spirit myself, for speaking for personal experience, is when I just feel on fire, when somebody can make me feel on fire with their mission, when I can see myself in their mission, I could see myself in their purpose and what they're trying to create. And I want to be a part of that. And I can help with my time, I can help with my talents, but it also feels good to help with my financial gifts. And I think, that's where the heart opening and wallet opening happens simultaneously when you're calling to that.
I agree completely. Karen, what's your perspective? Why is it important to you, and how do you see it as being something different than what maybe you've seen in the past?
Well, it was something that when I was, senior minister in New Braunfels for 13 years, and it really had to be confronted with, how do you grow the consciousness, the prosperity? I have to say I felt sometimes a little bit, just like a little bit intimidated by, ministries that had big budgets and how they grew and big staff, and and then comparing my church at the time, which was, it had adequate staff and adequate everything for what we were doing, for who we were serving, for the numbers, but you just kept feeling this drive that somehow it should be growing and getting bigger, and you should have more money, and that more money would allow you to do more things and all that kind of thing, which in a way it does. But what really drives that, and I got to live into this idea, is that what matters is what it is that your purpose is. What is it that you're actually doing? What is it that you want to do to serve? And put that in front of people. Just like Stacey just said, when you pull somebody by the heart towards something they want to help create, that they're invested in from a heart level, they will give. They will sell something to give. They will extend themselves. They'll if they can't give money, they will give time and energy and help build it, because they matter. In fact, the church in New Braunfels was such a structure. That building, the land was bought and the building was built by the people who come to that church. So that was a beautiful place for me to plug into the culture the church already had and the history it already had together, to really just continue to fan that flame by holding a vision for what it was we wanted to be in the community and call them into that. And it didn't always require money. It just required people wanting to invest themselves. And that really changed the dynamic, and it made Unity of New Braunfels a player in the community, which I kept wanting to do, but couldn't get accepted as a female minister in some weirdo sounding church in the outskirts of New Braunfels, outside of the legitimate, mainstream. So it was powerful and amazing, and it proved my theory. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love that. And what stands out to me in what you're saying is the difference between, if we had more money, wouldn't it be great to then figure out, what we would do with it? Like, oh, if we had more money, then we would do great things. But what are those great things? Like, do we really have a specific plan for what we would do as we grow? And how is that tied to the mission, as opposed to being in a mission-driven organization where you have an infrastructure that can scale to the degree that you have flow, so that you can, if extra money comes in, of course, we have the infrastructure that we can continue to grow and develop, because we have now more of that flow. I'm thinking back to when I was the spiritual leader at Unity of Wimberley, and we had this enormous facility to finance. And, we had to raise $40,000 in 40 days. We had a 40-day campaign to raise $40,000 from a congregation of about 40 people. And I remember we had one woman who came in. She was a visitor right as we were kicking off our fundraising drive. And we communicated, this is for us to move into this building, to own this building. We were so excited. And, we already had the board, we had our initial giving, and like, here's where we need to get to. It was really fun and really exciting. And this woman, she came in, she was mother of two, single mother of two, a third on the way, and she was living on food stamps. So you talk about someone who is like, ooh, I don't want to ask her. I don't want to ask her to give financially. I didn't have to ask her, because she was so engaged in the mission and what we were creating, that she came to me and she said, hey, I love to cook. Could I host a Valentine's Day dinner? I would just need, if the church could just buy the supplies, I can give you a grocery list. You pay for the supplies. And, we charged a $50 a plate Valentine's Day dinner that she hosted with her kids. And she raised, this single mom on welfare, raised $500 for our building fund. And it was such a paradigm shift when, it's like, where do we create the limitation because of what we think someone is able or not able to give? And so we're really talking about, how do you communicate in a different way, where it's not about asking people to throw in a quarter here and $1 here for the coffee, and here's, $10 for childcare and $5 for this, and not nickel and diming for every service we provide. But how do we instead create an organization that is inspiring, that people understand that as this organization grows and thrives, it is able to expand its mission, expand its impact. And that's really what we're talking about with mission-centric ministry. We talked about this on our first week when we said, what does it mean to be mission-centric? It's not about having the mission be benefiting the members of the church. The mission is for members of the church to be benefiting the community. So what can we create together on behalf of the community? So that's what's a little different for me. And when I first started learning about this, before, when I was doing my research for what has become SpiritGroups, I remember visiting all of these non-denominational churches. And my only experience, I wasn't a churchy kid. My only experience as a kid was, very, very limited. But when I started going to these non-denominational churches, the money conversation was so different than anything I had seen or learned or experienced in a New Thought church, including what I had done in my own ministry. Because what I felt was, it was all about our mission. It was all about generosity, that I could tell there was a level of engagement that as a new person, I had not gotten to yet. Like, I could tell there was a step, like I wasn't going to be asked, I wasn't going to be pressured right now because I'm new. Like, as a new person, what I felt was that everyone in this community was there to help me change my life, because everyone in the community had taken on that mission. So it wasn't about walking in the door and being asked to make a donation. It was about walking in the door and feeling like everybody there cared about my life. And that made me want to go deeper. And my guess is, if I had gone through their membership program, there's probably, deeper levels of conversation. The other thing I have seen in these ministries that I just thought was so inspiring, There's one of these non-denominational churches where when the offering basket gets passed around, they tell everybody, if you've got something to give, then throw it in the basket. And if you need a little something, then help yourself, because this community is here to help you. So the ministry was funded through the support of the membership, and Sunday was the icing on the cake. It wasn't the operations, it was the icing on the cake. And so they had the ability to be able to say, if you need something, our church is here for you. And it was just such a different experience than what I had seen in the past. So here's where we're going with this. That's a lot of setup. Where we're going with this is we want to answer your questions. And if you have any questions that you'd like to post, I have my Facebook group in front of me right now. So at facebook.com/spiritgroups, you can see something that says, hey, you got questions related to money mindset, post them here. And I'm watching that. So if you want to ask a question, feel free to post it in our Facebook group. I'm also going to share with you some of the top questions that I have received over the past 8 years in bringing small group ministry programs to New Thought churches. So are you ready to go there? I'm going to ask the questions, and then he's like, I don't know. I'll ask the questions, and we'll talk about each one. And I'm looking forward to getting everyone's perspective and starting a dialogue about, where are we and where are areas where we could potentially create a shift, a transformational shift. So the first question that I always get is, how is it different? A lot of churches think that they're mission driven because they say their mission statement. They have a mission statement. It's in the bulletin after all. But what really do you think of as the core difference between what it looks like, how it operationally works, or just how it feels when there's a different consciousness around the financial flow? Either of you want to pop in, and what's coming up for you?
Well, I can say that I had to confront that regularly, of course, in New Braunfels, because there were, pressing expenses and, the budget. We were, we were covering our budget. The budget was always, but we were not really amassing big clumps of money to put away. But we did have money in savings. So we had a modest little savings. So it worked, and we paid our bills. But I'd say this, that, the thing that I wanted, I just really didn't want to talk about the needs of the church. I wanted to talk instead about the mission of the church and why we were here, because, after all, we don't start a church and think, churches could bring in a nice little chunk of money. We could build a really cool, church and have a bunch of people come in, and then we could set up, some funds in the background, and, and like build a nest egg, and then we could maybe start a charity or a foundation because the church was so successful. It's like, no, that's not what we think of. We think of, what could we do? How could we share these teachings? How could we change lives? How could we support people? How could we help people live better lives, knowing that these teachings are transformational? How do I get excited about putting this out further, touching more lives than who already know about us, who already come here? How can we get beyond that? And what could we do to really touch people in powerful ways? That's what gets exciting. And that's what people want to give their time and their love and their money to, and resources, and share and build a building for. They didn't want to build a building on this little plot of land in New Braunfels because they thought it'd be cool to have, a Unity Church building next to the railroad track, I would add. But instead, they did it because they wanted to create the community that they already felt among each other, among themselves, and share it with the larger community. And that's what we did.
Mm.
What came up for me when Karen was talking is this idea of people giving out of inspiration versus obligation. I mean, I think you could put your bills out there and people might feel bad. Oh gosh, we got to help the church pay their electric. But is that going to be a sustainable method of them wanting to give versus, oh, I'm giving into this because look what we're doing. look what we can create together, and I'm inspired and I'm a part of it. And that just seems to, it's got a whole different energy to it. And a more inclusive energy, I would say, too.
Oh,
Because it allows everybody to be
exactly.
part.
I mean, like who wants to give to a money pit?
Right.
I mean, is there never going to be an end to this? The asking. Oh, we're not quite there.
Yeah.
Blah. Oh my gosh, I tell you what. And as a leader, it is the thing that wears you out the most, truly. Besides personality disorders that might be in your chart.
Next episode.
Yeah, right. That it's just that there are, just those worries about, things not staying afloat. And yet if you can, even as a minister, as a leader, when you vision what you're really here for, then the trust returns, the belief that we look how far we've gotten already, and we didn't know what we were doing. Imagine how far we can go not knowing what we're doing, how far can we go, and just keep an eye on the landscape in front of us to see where's there a subtle rise that tells us, ooh, something's bubbling up over there. Maybe that's the thing. Oh, maybe that will answer the question that we have. We thought it was going to go this direction, but maybe that's the thing that could make this happen, or the vision that we hold, or the group of people we want to support, or draw to our church, or be able to minister to. It was always an organic. That's the thing. It's an organic journey with your congregation as to what will appear and how will you use what you have.
I love that. And, I think it's not to say that we don't educate our membership, because I know Gary Simmons is coming to mind, because he has such a great membership program around educating, as people are coming in interested in membership, educating them on, just so you know, here's the baseline. Like this is keeping the doors open. As my my support admin team used to say, we got to keep the wheels on the bus. Like this is what it takes to keep the wheels on the bus. And I think that's good information for people to know as part of the community. And once we know that information, to be able to have informed, educated, mature members who get that it's about a lot more than keeping the wheels on the bus. It's about, us doing the work that we are called to do as we have defined it in our mission. And so being able to give above and beyond that. The challenging thing is, if we're only giving to cover the expenses, then we're always having to ask. If we're giving to need, we are setting ourselves up to constantly be in need, because the only time that need gets met is when we're asking. We need it, so please give it, and then they give it, and then that lasts until we're out again, and then we have to ask again. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle when you say, oh, but our air conditioning bill is like this, and we want to be able to pay our minister a living wage, don't we? We want to be able to pay our licensed teachers to teach the classes that are so important to our work. So how do we do that? And I think if we can look at building it may be small scale in the beginning, but it's all mission aligned. And when it's all mission aligned, this is what it takes for us to bring this mission to life, and then get everybody excited about jumping in. And that way it can scale, which we'll talk more about in a little bit. But so that is different. It's moving from giving to the expenses, here's what it takes, to our air conditioning bill was crazy down in Texas. Just keeping it cool on Sunday mornings was crazy, or keeping it clean, cleaning bills and things like that. They do add up, and most people have no idea how much it takes just to keep the wheels on the bus. But keeping the wheels on the bus is not that inspiring. So what if instead we communicate the transformation that's happening? And that's the other thing that Gary Simmons and Jane Simmons has an amazing program around having members of the community share their story. And she works with each one of them to cultivate a presentation that they deliver to the congregation, so that the congregation can see people time after time after time saying, this is the mission alive in my life. It's not about the air conditioning. It's not about payroll. All those things have to happen. Yeah, all those things have to be taken care of. But your giving is not about keeping the air conditioning on. It's about keeping this community vibrant so that I had this experience of transformation through this community. So bringing, putting the pieces together and not assuming that people get what it means when we say we're transforming lives or we're awakening or enlightening or whatever that mission statement may be. What does it look like? And then putting that in front of people in very specific, tangible ways. So anything else you want to add on that, on just what's different? Or and I just, as a reminder too, we do have our Facebook group that, I don't know, it fell asleep, but there it is. So yes, feel free to post your questions. I'm watching the Facebook page, and if you have any questions or you have any comments or you have things that you'd like to share, feel free to post them at facebook.com/SpiritGroups. We also have a Patreon community, and that is if you'd like to support this program and share some of that financial flow to help us get this message out to spiritual leaders in the New Thought movement. That website is at patreon.com/SpiritGroups, and we appreciate your support. So we're talking about money mindset today. When we come back, more frequently asked questions about what it means to step into a mission-driven money mindset. We'll be right back.